Hello and welcome to this morning's episode of Trending. As always, it's brought to you in association with Iconic Coffee. Head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code TRENDING for 10% off. Richard Willett, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. I think I need to mainline that coffee this morning because I've been up, not all night, for about an hour and a half, trying to wade through the JFK files. Like someone's just dumped a lot of. Basically, it was like trying to look through Arthur's drawings at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
Yes, doesn't make much sense, does it? I think it's interesting to see people's reactions to this, isn't it?
I think so. It was funny. I was lying in bed last night and I was thinking, do I stay awake? Well, now because I'm going to pay for it today, like I guess you are. But then it kind of dawned on me, and I did tweet this before I went to bed, was the fact that we've moved on from the release of the Epstein files to the JFK files without the release of the Epstein files, which is quite funny to watch it because you saw everyone get very excited about the Epstein files, and then it didn't happen, and then they went, "Oh yeah, no, JFK files are coming out," and I was thinking, but there were some Epstein files. Where have they've not come out? Obviously, there has been a drop of files, 70,000 plus files apparently related to the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy in 1963. I was paying attention in history class. Obviously, there's no way anyone in 5 hours or whatever length of time it's been since the release has gone through 70,000 files. That's just not possible. Even Johnny Five from Short Circuit would struggle with that. So I imagine what a lot of them have done is put it through some kind of AI search to try and pick out certain, parts or summarize or whatever. Now, what I expected it to be was a bit of a nothing burger with a side of lies. That was what I thought. I thought there would be so many redactions that actually it would kind of be a bit pointless. But there are little bits, Rich, that have come out. So one piece being the fact that from what I could first see, it was kind of promoting the idea that it was a small clique within the CIA. Okay, so there are no real big connections to major corporations, foreign governments, foreign interests, in military-industrial complex or anything like that. It was just a small clique of disgruntled CIA agents that managed to keep it secret for 60 plus years. Impressive. But then more stuff has kind of come out, and one of the major bits, actually, Richard, is not what it says in there, but what was requested to not be in there. And that was the fact, and I've seen a couple of these files where the CIA are happy for the release, and it says on it, it's got, handwriting, as you say, it's like a child's drawing in parts, handwriting on it saying, the CIA is happy for this to be released with the exception of, and the exception of is any connection to the Israeli intelligence services, Mossad. Imagine my shock, Richard Willett, because to be fair, it's been known for decades that Israeli intelligence, the CIA, the mob, and other, fractions of other vested interests were all in on this together. It wasn't a one-man job. It wasn't the Jews, as people like to say. It wasn't the Italian mob, as people like to say. It wasn't the Cubans. It was a collective of different agencies. And actually, some of the files released actually implicate Australian intelligence as well, which I find quite interesting. Now, the major thing, Rich, that I've seen that people are talking about massively is the files that connect a CIA agent by the name of James Angleton with Israel. Now, he was a major player. He's massively connected in terms of the assassination. His name's come up for a long time, but those ties to Israel hadn't come up. Then some photos have emerged of people that have obviously seen that, done a bit more research of him with the head of Mossad back in the 60s and stuff. So these connections are there, and people are kind of freaking out about them to a certain degree. Some people are doubling down, like the pro-Israel lot are like, how dare you say that, you're anti-Semitic. But most other people are going, oh, hang on. But then I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this connection, including names, dates and places, was in And the Truth Will Set You Free in 1995. My dad wrote this in 1995. We're going back 30 years. Where, this was written in a book and put out there. And suddenly 30 years later, people are going, oh my goodness me, what an unbelievable revelation that Donald Trump's released. It's like, well, not really. Not really.
No, it's amazing, isn't it? So 30 years ago, your dad wrote about this, and I saw the email he sent over this morning. 30 years ago, this information's been out there, even during Biden's administration, and we know they're all singing off the same hymn sheet anyway, obviously. But he was, releasing bits here and there. There's just such a convoluted mess of stuff. It's like someone coming in your office, dumping a load of files on there with no context of what any of it means, and you trying to make any head nor tail of it. It's chaos. It's literally chaos. So what they've done is gone, all right, you can have what you want, but you're not going to get in any context of what any of it means. And when you look at it, it is literally what you're doing is you're investigating the investigation. And the investigation says we don't know who did it. So literally you get to the end of it and go, still don't know who did it. It's the point. The point is that you're on a wild goose chase to investigate the investigation that didn't turn out to understand or show any proof that any one faction or even any singular person within a faction did this. So it's a wild goose chase, and that's the point. And now credit where's credit's due. He's released some files. He's one of the campaign promises. They're not all the files, and some are redacted. So he's partially completed one of his promises, but not in full. So it is a little bit like carrot, isn't it? A carrot for these guys to just sort of like say that he's done something or kick it down the road a little bit more. So again, when you look at them, and I tried to read about 40 last night, there's I think 1,200 pages on the site. So, and each page contains about 10, 11 PDFs. So there's no way you're going to read that in 8 hours. That's going to take weeks. And to make any head nor tail of it, you need context of what any of it means. So there's mentions of Biden in there. There's mention of the Cubans, as you say, the Australians, Russians. But what does any of that actually mean? These are big terms, labels. It's like blaming someone at Coca-Cola for it. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. That's not how you find a killer, by saying where he works. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't really reveal anything from what I've seen. And again, I can only comment on what I've actually seen. So I can't say I've read them all. No one, I don't think, on the planet has read them all since they were released last night. That's physically impossible, even if you stayed up all night. And then again, to make head nor tail of any of it is pretty much impossible. There are redactions, crossings out. Half of them are badly photocopied. You can't really read half of it. It doesn't really do much, and all it really does is create more confusion and chaos, and that's the point. So when the Jeffrey Epstein stuff drops, and I hate that word, but when they release those stuff, yeah, if it does, it's going to be the same thing, because without the context of knowing what you're doing, you need to research that and go away and do your own investigation. You don't go in there and investigate the investigation and go, well, they turned out the investigation was fraudulent. We know that. You go away and do your own investigation into it. And this is part of looking at it and going, what they came up with was nonsense. Let's go and have a look at it ourselves. But people were ready. And this is the kind of, I suppose, the laziness of the research going, give me the answer. I want you to just print me out 10 bullet points and tells me who did it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's why I said that a lot of people would have put it through AI. And yeah. The other thing as well is, okay, the Warren Commission summarized that basically Oswald killed Kennedy. I mean, if anyone still believed, even before this drop, that Oswald killed Kennedy, then I don't know what to say to you, to be honest, other than I've got an inflatable dartboard for sale if you want to buy one. Because it was so obvious that he was a patsy. And then the fact that Jack Rubenstein killed him in the underground car park, that was just to get rid of, that was to clean up after all of it, basically. Because then you couldn't have Lee Harvey Oswald in a dock saying he didn't do it and causing some kind of confusion and whatever. It was like, no, he's done, he's dealt with, he's guilty, he's dead now, so he can't defend himself. Good night, Vienna. The other thing as well I find, Rich, is that all of a sudden we're trusting the intelligence agencies, because you've seen, Pam Bondi, you've seen Luca, you've seen Trump and all these other people talking about these files, and we're hoping that we will get these off the FBI. Hopefully CIA will do this, do that. So okay, so you're relying on the intelligence services then. So it's a case of, I don't trust the intelligence services. I think they were almost certainly involved in the murder of a former president, a very popular president of the United States, but I do trust them to give me all the files on it. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's
right.
70,000 files. Well, who's to say there's not 90,000 files? Who's to say there's not 170,000 files and we're just getting given those ones? There's a lot of trust involved with people that you generally don't trust.
It is absurd, isn't it? And that is I suppose, like, the cognitive dissonance there. The mixed messaging is that we don't trust these people, but we trust them enough to tell us why we don't trust them. And then you just end up going, this makes no sense. So exactly, you've got other alternative media people out there saying the CIA are involved, whilst looking at the CIA and the FBI to give them the files on why they're not going to write it down for you.
Well, that's the point.
They're not going to tell you.
You see a lot of this, I think, like post-COVID, where suddenly, obviously you had the Putin-Ukraine invasion, that happened, but then it's very quickly went back to climate change. And they're going, oh, yeah, Bill Gates, he lied, didn't he, about the vaccine? Oh, my goodness. Have you seen what Bill Gates has said? I know. We need to do something about climate change. Hang on. He's a liar. He's a liar. But he's not lying about that. Yeah. Of course he's not.
So, yeah. They're moving on, but it's not got us anywhere, is it, other than more chaos dumped on top, as per usual. And I expect the same for the Epstein files as well. That's the point. Same. Yeah. Trump can hold his hand up and say, I've done my bit, even though it was only partially bit, and not what he promised at all. But then again, can he promise to reveal something that no one really knows the answer with? Do you think anyone on the planet still alive knows the truth? Probably not.
I will just say, though, for people at home that think I'm a neg Nelly and we're black-pilled and all that kind of stuff, I hope I'm wrong, mate. I hope in the next hours, days, weeks, months, that more and more people go deep into these 70+ thousand files and they find the legit nuggets of truth and go, right, this is what happened. This is who did it. These are the organizations. That's what I hope happens. I hope that with all my heart and soul. I hope the same with Epstein. Obviously, I want these people held to account. I want them out in the street and flogged. What I'm saying is I don't see that happening. But I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening. Have you had breakfast today, Richard?
I have not had breakfast. No, I had a coffee.
So would you say that maybe you're hungry?
I'm starving for it.
Right. So the next story is your story. It comes from Hungary. That was the segue there. It's like a professional, isn't it?
It's a good one.
It's an interesting one. Rich, go on.
So this, the people who are posting this tend to kind of miss the underlining point of this. Hungary bans pride events and plans to use facial recognition to target attenders. Just attenders. So MPs in Hungary have voted to ban pride events and allowed authorities to use facial recognition software to identify attenders and potentially fine them. Imagine getting that. I got fined for going to the gay pride event in what Amnesty International described as a full frontal nice pun, attack on LGBTQ plus people. So you can see the switch here, can't you? It was the LGBTQ plus was the kind of thing to get behind and be like part of when the left were in, and now it's switched over in certain parts of the world. Now they're the enemy and they're being used. So again, it shows you how these people are being used. The LGBT community was used to push the transhumanist agenda. We all know that. And now they're being demonized here, but and the whole point of it is problem, reaction, solution, obviously. So now they're bringing in facial recognition. We've had that in Wales, I think, with the rugby as well, not that long ago. They're slowly creeping in this technocracy in the background. The legislation, the latest by the Prime Minister Viktor Orban and his right-wing populist party to target LGBTQ plus rights, was pushed through Parliament on Tuesday. Believed to be the first of its kind in the EU's recent history, the nationwide ban passed by 136 votes to 27 after it was submitted to Parliament. It amends the country's law on assembly to make it an offence to hold or attend events that violate Hungary's constitution or contentious child protection legislation, which bars any depiction or promotion of homosexuality to minors under the age of 18. That's such a vague thing to say. I mean, how can you ban something that's not illegal, the showing of it that's not illegal? So that doesn't make any sense, obviously, but this is just to divide people. But really, in the background, this is about pushing out the technocracy, the technology, and covertly putting that out. This is nothing to do with these guys. They're all just being used. Of course, they are, like everybody. Every faction is. So now facial recognition is going to become the norm.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? And they want people to agree to it. I will say, though, does facial recognition work if I'm in a GIMP mask with a ball gag?
Only
Because
if you
if it
were wearing that
doesn't-
when you were arrested.
If it doesn't, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? Unless you wear chaps and it recognises your backside. It's the pendulum swing, isn't it? We spoke about it for a while, what was going to come as a result of pushing the extremes of an agenda. For me, do you know what I mean? Some people might have a problem with this. I think live your life how you see fit, whatever. As long as you don't negatively impact anyone else, do what you like. It's none of my business. I'm not going to ask for freedom in my life and not allow you to have freedom in yours. Do what you like, mate. It's fine. What then? And that is 99% of that community, right? Not that I believe it's a community as if they're all the freaking same and think the same and act the same. They don't. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say the LGBTQ plus whatever, that it's a community of people that all think the same. Most of them within that just want to get on with their lives. And then what you have is you have the extremes of that. You have the drag queen story hours and all this nonsense. You have the sexualization of kids and all this nonsense. That's the stuff that's been promoted the most. Regular couple of lads that, probably hid their feelings for each other for 20, 30 years, then eventually, whatever, sod it, I love you, mate. They're not the ones that get promoted. It's the ones that go, I'm the first man to have a baby. No, you're not. You're a woman who's taken hormones and you've grown a beard. That's what's being promoted in the papers, is that kind of stuff. And that winds people up. It gets rammed down people's throats for a reason, to get the reaction. That's what they want. And groups like Gays Against Groomers in America, they've been warning about this probably for 5 years, probably even longer than that actually the acceptance of their community has actually gone down considerably in the last few years, when actually what's supposed to be happening is we're supposed to be a more liberal and accepting society. We've moved on from the 1950s where dad looked at his son and went, "You are not gay," and all that kind of stuff. It's changed. But what's happened in the last few years, because it's gone to the extremes, because they've been targeting children so massively, because, the Dylan McVeighs of this world have been promoted, that's wound people up. And so people then, as a result of it, the pendulum swings back. They go, good, ban pride events, good, use facial recognition, when actually normally you would have been against facial recognition.
Yep.
It's clever, Rich. It's clever, but it's a play.
Yeah, it's a big flowery Trojan horse in the background, isn't it? Getting through. That's the whole point. And this is what they do every time. So watch the plays, like the rugby. Rugby hooligans, we need facial recognition. Keep you safe. Keep the kids safe. We're doing it for your benefit. Always the same. And when they prop people up, or a group, as you say, or community, as you said, they'll use them on the back end of that when they're no longer any use. That's the whole point. And you say it swings the pendulum from one extreme, the blue, to the red, the polarities between there, and anywhere between there, they can get their agenda in, which is clearly their facial recognition stuff. And as you say, there's elements of that. I mean, there's a big difference between walking down the street with a pride flag, being proud that you've been able to have the courage to come out to your family, than there is crawling down the street with an apple in your mouth and a GIMP mask on. I think there's a big difference anyway. I don't
know. You live in Norfolk. I grew up on the Isle of Wight.
GIMP mask sales are through the roof.
Through the roof. Right, bad news coming, Rich, but with everything, I like to focus on positive. So even when you get dealt a bad hand, right, let's look at the positive. What is good coming out of this, right? So here in the UK, we pay the highest energy prices on the planet. Our energy prices are about to go up again next month by, well, it depends on where you are, but the average is by £100 a month.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's insane, right? So that's the bad news. Okay, all right, fine. We're already struggling. We're going to be struggling even more. Okay, that's the bad news. Here's the good news. British Gas boss Chris O'Shea, his annual salary will jump from £855,000 a year to 1.1 million from April the 1st.
Yay!
So do you know what I mean? God giveth, God taketh away. The same day that millions of British gas customers will see their energy bills rise by 6.4%, to an average of, nearly £2,000 a year. Like I said, it's already the highest bills on the planet. We're destroying our own energy infrastructure, literally blowing up our energy infrastructure. We spoke about this yesterday on Trending. At the same time as we're picking a fight with Russia, we're covertly assisting the United States in their bombing raids on Yemen by refueling their jets over the Mediterranean. And so therefore we're implicated in any escalation that happens there with Iran. So that's good news. They're pissing on us and they're telling us that it's raining. That's what the Labour government is doing. To be fair, it's what the Tories were doing before that. I got a letter this week saying my council tax is this now. It's like, you're having a laugh, mate. Everything is going up. They're putting up the national insurance contributions for businesses by 5%. So what do they think the businesses are going to do with that? They're going to take the hit, are they, businesses? No, they're going to put the prices up. They're going to pass that 5% onto the consumer, us, who's already being absolutely rinsed. It's getting beyond a joke, and I don't know how much longer people are going to put up with it. That said, as I said at the top, at least Chris O'Shea's getting a pay rise. So that's a relief. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, it's all go around Chris's house to warm yourself up. We can all gather around his log fire there and his log cabin there and just have a little cuddle, I suppose. Thousands of us. It goes on and on and on. These are crooks. These are felons. You've got the crooks in the kakistocracy, it was called. Great word that I found out about a few weeks ago. The least eligible are in charge. And that's basically what we've done here. We've allowed these crooks and criminals to be in charge, either side of the pond. And as you say, it's almost like they want to bring down Edom, isn't it? The West, Rome. It's almost like they want to bring down that kingdom and replace it with something else. Perhaps a technocracy with the likes of security cameras everywhere and AI facial recognition and everybody attached to the system. It's clearly we're in a phase of moving on to this new world order, transhumanist technology element. And this is where all your carbon credits will come from and all of this other nonsense. So you can see it moving over. We've been pointing this out, as you said earlier on, that your dad was speaking about one of these JFK files, his names 30 plus years ago. How long do you need to be told before you kind of stand up and go, this is coming to my door now? Now they want another £2,000 a year for your energy bills. I mean, it's absurd. We got a council tax bill as well. I mean, they could just do what they want, and they're squeezing the amount of money. They control the booms and busts. So no one's going to have any money to spend on your services. You're going to have to get rid of staff. You're going to have to hike your prices, and no one's going to buy any of it. They just pull and push and pull the cords whenever they want. So until we got to get out of this system, there's no working within this system. It is the beast system. It's been here for a couple of 100 years at least.
Well, this is the thing as well. When you look at those national insurance contributions per member of staff you have, well, I'll lay a load off then. I'll replace them with AI.
Exactly.
And ones I can't replace with AI for now, I'll put on Dave and Julie. Sorry, your wages aren't going up, can't afford it. But if you want to keep your job, bear in mind everyone else is losing theirs, then you need to take on this extra work. So Dave and Julie become more stressed. Dave and Julie see less of their kids, less of their family. They become unhealthier, more unhappy. And the thing is as well, like people use this quote all the time, Rich. I do as well. The Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum mantra of you will own nothing, but you will be happy, right? Now people repeat that all the time. Now, bearing in mind, obviously, we've spoken about in the previous story about facial recognition and all this kind of stuff. That's not the full quote. The full quote isn't you will own nothing, you'll be happy. The full quote is you will have no privacy, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. That's the full quote. And that's what we're seeing left, right, and center. And we're getting to a point where people are angry. And what do angry people do? Yep. Well, some sit on their arse and moan. Others get out there and protest, but we can't have that, Richard. And so that's your final story today.
Yeah, your facial recognition there as well, isn't it? So that is exactly where we're at with the facial recognition. Final story today is Sound of Panic, terrifying vid shows mysterious new sonic weapon deployed against crowd of protesters, clearing streets in seconds. I mean, have a look at the video. We've got a video clip here. Obviously, it's the sonic sound, so you can't hear it on the video, but look at the crowd disperse. So that's obviously freaked a lot of them out. It's literally like a flood coming through the street, them diving left and right. People said that they were nauseous, they were sick, disorientated afterwards. The military said that that wasn't it. So footage has emerged showing that appears to be a military grade sonic cannon being used to disperse peaceful protesters in Serbia. It is claimed riot police deployed the mysterious weapon to dispel hundreds of thousands of demonstrators who had gathered in Belgrade to stage a massive protest against government corruption. So they're using this technology again as showing that they've got this stuff. And we've said this before, on their own people, to disperse them for protesting, which is a civil right to protest the government. This is the technology that's coming in when you're living in a 15-minute city and you can't go out of that block because you're ring-fenced in. This is the technology they're able to use to keep you where you are supposed to be, according to your social credit score. Footage shows thousands of rally goers filling the city streets before a deafening roar ripped down an avenue. And you can't hear, well, I couldn't hear the roar on the video, but I'm assuming that's because it was a sub sound. Demonstrators were all standing quietly to observe a 15-minute silence. So maybe that was an occult pun. During the silence, they let off this subatomic sound for 15 people who died when the concrete canopy of a railway station collapsed last year. So it was a 15-minute silence for 15 people who died because of a collapse of a railway station last year. The canopy fell on them. This was protesting that. And they've gone and used this sonic weapon against them because they were protesting that. I mean, how vile do you have to be? It is psychopathic, isn't it?
That's the thing. Useful psychopaths. Whoever's pressing the button to fire that out there. For me, Rich, as soon as you sent me this story this morning, obviously to say, look, let's cover this, I instantly thought of Just Stop Oil, I thought of Extinction Rebellion, I thought of Black Lives Matter, and how much during those huge protests, they're allowed to do what they want. They can do what they want. So COVID protests, no chance, mate. Protest lockdowns, no chance, mate. We're getting manhandled by the police and all sorts. Black Lives Matter at the very same time in that summer of 2020 could do what they want. Could loot shops in London, not a problem. Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, they can stop, they can close bridges and stop access for ambulances to get into St Thomas's Hospital in London, not a problem. That they can sit and block motorways and stop people getting to work, stop pregnant women getting to the hospital, stop people getting home to their kids, not a problem. And the police will actually give you a glass of water while you're on the floor. Thanks so much. And what that did is that wound up the public. That annoyed people, justifiably, because you're having a laugh, mate. That's ridiculous. It made them angry, and therefore it turned them apathetic against people protesting. So then what happened at the time was Suella Braverman, because this was the Conservative government at that time, pushed to basically ban protests, and people that would have normally gone, no, that's a human right, mate, went, good. And that's do you know what I mean? And they're doing the same with the pro-Palestinian anti-genocide marches at the moment, and they have been for a long time. So many people that were on COVID marches and wanted freedom of speech, wanted freedom of expression, wanted freedom to demonstrate, are now going, ban these hate marches. And you're like, mate, you were called a hate marcher when you were marching against mandatory vaccinations, mate. And so it feels to me like this is something that they will want to implement everywhere. And I remember Boris Johnson, he bought those water cannons, didn't he, when he was mayor of London, to disperse protesters. And there was outrage to that, as there should have been. But actually, when suddenly you wind up the public so much by allowing so much ridiculous stuff to happen, like blocking hospitals and other things, that actually, in the end, the public sit back and go, good, that will show them. And I can see that being deployed here eventually, Rich.
Yeah, it's what happens when you have like ambiguity with your morals. You can just be played left and right. You can just change your morals regardless of what's happening in front of you, or in accordance to what's happening in front of you. That has nothing to do with your own behaviour from last week. You can almost live in this fantasy land that you're always on the right side, even if it contradicts something you were doing 5 minutes earlier. This whole ambiguity, it's do what thou wilt. It's this kind of a belief that, you know, I'm right all the time. And it's like, this is the mess you get yourself into, because you do cognitively go, I actually don't even know what my own truths are anymore, because they're not consistent over a long period of time. That's when your morals and values bed in, that you're consistently sticking to the same morals and values for a very long time. Those that you believe in, yes, you're going to drop some and pick some up and you know, change some here and there, but not in 5 minutes. And that's where we've got to now. People are more interested in what they seem to be espousing on social media to make them look good than actually having any morals and values. And it'll get to the point sometime in the future that won't even mean anything. People will just say, just tell me what I'm supposed to do. Tell me what I'm supposed to think to get my social credit score up and be a compliant person. Make me a good boy and a good girl.
Yeah, well, but people have this attitude. It's different when we do it. So, for instance, when Biden was pushing for war with Russia and supporting Ukraine, all this kind of stuff, everyone's there going, no foreign wars, no foreign wars. We need to make America great again. We need to focus on America. No wars in the Middle East. No, man, what are you doing? You're bombing Yemen and threatening Iran. Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
Really? No foreign wars. That's different.
Crazy land.
Different. There we go. Anyway, Rich, mate, I'm back with you tomorrow morning again. Looking forward to that. It's always nice to see your face, even though like you've gone from clean shaven, but you've got a little bit of thing back. Yeah. I went for, Rich, I was going for like Viking elder, thinking, you know, I'll book my place in Valhalla with a beard like this. And then I realised yesterday, and I said to the guys, I look like Jerry Adams.
Yes.
Don't I?
Yeah. Who was Jerry Adams? Explain to the audience.
He was the head of Sinn Féin, wasn't he? It is not me that is being unreasonable. It is you. There we go.
God, it's like he was in the room with us.
In it just. Right, we'll see you tomorrow. As always, Trending was brought to you in association with Iconic Coffee. Head over to shop.iconic.com. Use the code TRENDING. Get 10% off. Rich, take care of yourself, mate. I'll see you tomorrow. Everyone at home, stay lucky.